Sarah Smith adjusted her fanny pack and squinted at the crumpled tourist map in her hands. The morning sun cast long shadows across Montmartre as early vendors set up their stalls. She wore sensible walking shoes and an oversized camera around her neck that screamed American tourist. A group of street vendors noticed her immediately. One nudged his partner and pointed in her direction. They exchanged knowing looks and quiet chuckles. Another easy mark, wandering into their territory. Sarah pretended to struggle with the map while scanning the crowd through her peripheral vision. Her target sat at a cafe table 30 meters away. Viktor Kozlov sipped his espresso and checked his phone repeatedly. The arms dealer had been careful for months, but intelligence suggested he would make contact with buyers today. She had trained for this mission for weeks. The missing nuclear device, codenamed Package Prometheus, had vanished from a military transport 3 days ago. Every hour that passed increased the chances it would end up in terrorist hands. Sarah was the only operative with the language skills and European experience to track it down. Marcel Dubois watched the confused American woman from across the square. His practiced eye catalogued every detail. Designer purse carelessly slung over one shoulder. Expensive camera equipment. Wedding ring that suggested comfortable finances. She looked around helplessly as tourists bumped past her. Perfect. He had been working these streets since childhood. His grandmother had taught him to read people before he could properly read books. This woman radiated vulnerability. She would never see him coming. Marcel's phone buzzed with a text from his sister Amélie. The security cameras showed 2 potential marks near the Sacré-Cœur. Neither looked as promising as the American woman currently studying her map upside down. He slipped through the crowd with practiced ease. Years of experience had taught him exactly how to approach without drawing attention. A gentle bump. A muttered apology. Fingers that moved faster than conscious thought. Sarah noticed Viktor stand up from his table. Her pulse quickened. 3 months of intelligence gathering had led to this moment. She could not afford to lose him now. Viktor glanced around the square before walking toward a narrow side street. Sarah folded her map and prepared to follow. She took 2 steps forward when someone bumped into her from behind. The collision felt deliberate, professional. Sarah's combat training kicked in before her conscious mind could process what was happening. She felt fingers near her purse. Her body moved on pure instinct. Her hand shot out and grabbed the stranger's wrist. She twisted with precise force and pulled him off balance. The man gasped in pain as she applied pressure to nerve points she had memorized years ago. Marcel felt were sharp and calculating. Her stance suggested military training. The crowd around them began to notice the commotion. Several people stopped to stare. Someone pulled out a phone to record video. Sarah realized her mistake immediately. She had blown her cover in front of dozens of witnesses. Viktor would notice the disturbance and become suspicious. 3 months of careful planning were evaporating in real time. She quickly released Marcel's wrist and stumbled backward. Her voice became high and frightened as she switched back to her tourist persona. "Help! This man tried to rob me." Marcel rubbed his wrist and stared at her in confusion. The pain was real, but her performance was obviously fake. No confused tourist could disable someone with that level of precision. More people gathered around them. Someone called for police. Sarah glanced toward Viktor's table and saw it was empty. Panic rose in her chest. She spotted Viktor near the side street entrance. He had stopped walking and was looking directly at the crowd surrounding her and Marcel. His expression was alert and suspicious. Viktor pulled out his phone and made a quick call. Sarah could not hear the conversation, but his body language suggested he was reporting a potential threat. He ended the call and disappeared into the side street. Sarah's mission was falling apart. Her handler would pull her from the assignment if he learned her cover was blown. The nuclear device would slip further away from recovery. Thousands of innocent lives hung in the balance. Marcel stepped closer to her, despite the crowd watching them. His voice was quiet but firm. "Lady, I don't know what kind of training you have, but you're no tourist." Sarah met his eyes and saw intelligence there. Not just street smarts, but genuine perception. He had figured out more in 30 seconds than most people would in 30 minutes. Two men in dark suits emerged from the side street Victor had entered. They scanned the crowd methodically. Their movements suggested military or security backgrounds. Sarah recognized the type immediately. Victor's protection detail had come to investigate the disturbance. They were looking for threats to their employer. The men's eyes settled on Sarah and Marcel. One of them spoke into a radio device. The other began moving through the crowd toward them. Sarah had seconds to make a decision. She could abandon Marcel and try to salvage her mission alone. Or she could trust a criminal stranger who had already seen through her carefully constructed cover. Marcel noticed the approaching men as well. His street instincts warned him of danger, even if he did not understand the full situation. "Those guys don't look friendly," he whispered. The first man was 20 meters away and closing fast. His partner was circling around to cut off their escape route. Sarah grabbed Marcel's arm. Her tourist act moved toward something concealed beneath his jacket. Sarah calculated distances and escape routes in milliseconds. Marcel tried to back away, but found himself trapped between panicking bystanders. The second man had positioned himself to block their exit from the square. Professional coordination meant these were not random street criminals. Sarah made her choice. She stepped forward and struck the first man's wrist before he could draw his weapon. The blow was precise and non-lethal, but rendered his right hand useless. He stumbled backward into a group of fleeing tourists. The second man spoke rapidly into his radio while advancing through the crowd. Sarah grabbed Marcel's sleeve and pulled him toward the narrow alley behind the souvenir stands. "Move! Now!" Marcel's legs finally responded to his brain's commands. They ran between stalls, selling miniature Eiffel Towers and postcards. Vendors shouted complaints as they knocked over displays. Sarah's mind processed tactical information automatically. Two hostiles with radio communication meant backup was coming. Victor would be long gone by now. Her mission was compromised beyond salvage. They emerged onto a busy street filled with morning commuters. Sarah scanned for pursuit while Marcel gasped for breath beside her. "What did you do to make those guys so angry?" Sarah ignored his question. 3 black SUVs were racing toward their location from different directions. Victor's security team was larger and better equipped than intelligence had suggested. She pulled Marcel into the entrance of a metro station. The underground tunnels would provide cover and multiple escape routes. Her training had covered urban evasion techniques for exactly this scenario. Marcel followed her down the stairs despite his confusion. His street instincts told him to trust the dangerous woman who had just saved his life. She moved with the confidence of someone accustomed to violence. "Lady, I need to know what I'm running from." Sarah bought 2 metro tickets while watching the entrance behind them. No pursuit yet, but that would change quickly. Victor's men would check security cameras and track their movement through the station. Arms dealers. Nuclear weapons. That's all you need to know. Marcel's eyes widened. He had pickpocketed politicians and celebrities, but never stumbled into international terrorism. His grandmother was going to kill him if he survived this. The train arrived and Sarah pushed him aboard. She chose seats with clear views of all exits. Her body remained relaxed, but Marcel noticed her eyes constantly moving. "You're military." It was not a question. Sarah's posture and movement patterns were unmistakable to someone who had spent years studying people. Marcel had learned to read body language before he could properly read street signs. Sarah studied Marcel for the first time since grabbing his wrist. Mid-20s with intelligent eyes and quick reflexes. His clothes were expensive but not flashy, professional criminal rather than desperate amateur. Former military, current problem solver. Marcel rubbed his wrist where she had grabbed him. The pain was fading, but the memory of her speed and precision remained vivid. He had never encountered anyone who moved like that. "What kind of problems do you solve?" Sarah's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from her handler. Commander Phillips wanted a status report within the hour. She could not tell him about Victor's escape, or her blown cover. Not yet. "The kind that explode if I don't find them in the next 18 hours. The train pulled into Châtelet Station. Sarah led Marcel through the maze of connecting tunnels toward the surface. Her mental map of Paris included every major building and intersection, knowledge that could mean the difference between success and catastrophe. Marcel kept pace despite his confusion. His life had shifted from petty theft to international espionage in the span of 20 minutes. The transition felt surreal, but oddly exciting. "You need local help. Someone who knows the streets and the people." Sarah glanced at him with surprise. Most civilians would be begging to escape by now. Marcel seemed genuinely interested in helping with something he barely understood. This isn't a game. People die when nuclear weapons go missing. Marcel thought about his grandmother and sister, about the tourists and locals who filled Paris every day, about the life he had built through small crimes and careful risks. "Then we better find it, fast." They emerged onto the Rue de Rivoli as morning traffic filled the streets. Sarah spotted a cafe with outdoor seating that provided good sightlines in all directions. She needed time to reassess her situation and plan the next move. Marcel ordered coffee, while Sarah used her encrypted phone to access intelligence databases. Victor's known associates included weapons manufacturers and terrorist financiers. The network was larger than anyone had suspected. "My sister Amelie is good with computers, really good." Sarah looked up from her phone. Marcel was offering resources she desperately needed. Local knowledge combined with technical skills could replace what she had lost when her cover was blown. "Why would you help me? You don't know anything about me." Marcel sipped his coffee and watched pedestrians walk past their table. Normal people, living normal lives, without knowing how close they might be to losing everything. "Because someone needs to. And because you could have left me back there but didn't." Sarah felt something she had not experienced in years of military service. Partnership with someone who chose to help rather than following orders. Trust that was offered freely instead of commanded by rank structure. Her phone buzzed again. Phillips was getting impatient for her report. Victor was probably already planning his next move with the nuclear device. Time was running out faster than she could adapt to the new circumstances. Marcel pulled out his own phone and showed her a text conversation with someone named Amelie. "She's been tracking the security cameras since this morning. Says she can find your arms dealer if you give her something to work with." Sarah stared at the phone screen. Marcel was offering exactly what she needed to salvage her mission. The question was whether she could trust a criminal stranger with something that could destroy half of Paris. Sarah made her decision. She forwarded Victor's photograph and last known coordinates to Marcel's phone. Within minutes, Amelie had accessed the city's surveillance network and begun tracking movement patterns through central Paris. Marcel's sister worked from a cluttered apartment filled with multiple computer screens and networking equipment. Her fingers moved across keyboards with the same precision Marcel used for pickpocketing. The Dubois family had always been gifted with their hands. Sarah's encrypted phone rang. Commander Phillips appeared on the screen with his usual stern expression. She had delayed this conversation as long as possible. "Smith, I need your status report. Command is getting nervous about the timeline." Sarah chose her words carefully while Marcel listened from across the cafe table. "Target acquired. Surveillance ongoing. Should have location within 12 hours. Phillips frowned at something on his end of the call. Sarah could see him reviewing files and intelligence reports behind his desk in Virginia. "Your communication signature disappeared for 40 minutes this morning. Explain." Sarah felt sweat on her palms despite the cool morning air. Phillips had access to tracking technology that monitored all field operatives in real time. Her cover story needed to be perfect. "Metro tunnels interfere with the signal. I was following the target underground." Phillips accepted her explanation, but his expression remained suspicious. Sarah had worked with him for 3 years and knew when he was holding back information. "Find that device, Smith. The political pressure is increasing every hour. We cannot afford another international incident." The call ended abruptly. Sarah stared at her phone and wondered if Phillips was telling her everything about this mission. Something felt wrong about the intelligence they had provided. Amelie sent updates every few minutes as she tracked Victor through security cameras across the city. The arms dealer had visited 3 different locations since escaping the square. His movement pattern suggested he was preparing for a major transaction. Marcel studied the photographs his sister sent to his phone. Victor's security team was larger and better equipped than typical criminal organizations. Military-grade weapons and professional coordination indicated serious funding. "This guy has government connections." Sarah nodded while reviewing the surveillance data. Victor's resources suggested state sponsorship or intelligence agency backing. The mission briefing had not mentioned those possibilities. Her phone buzzed with a message from Amelie. Victor had entered a warehouse in an industrial district outside central Paris. Thermal imaging showed at least 6 additional people inside the building. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. This could be the break she needed to locate the nuclear device. Victor would not risk moving package Prometheus without serious security measures. "Can your sister get building schematics for that warehouse?" Marcel forwarded the request while Sarah planned their approach. The industrial district offered good cover, but limited escape routes. If Victor's team discovered their surveillance, they would be trapped in hostile territory. Amelie's response arrived with detailed architectural drawings and utility access points. She had hacked into city planning databases and construction company files within minutes. Her skills rivaled anything Sarah had seen from military intelligence specialists. They took the metro toward the warehouse district as afternoon shadows began to lengthen across Paris. Sarah felt the familiar tension that preceded direct action. Every mission carried the possibility of failure and consequences she preferred not to consider. Marcel seemed nervous but determined as they traveled through the underground tunnels. His usual confidence had been replaced by awareness of the stakes involved. Nuclear weapons changed everything about risk assessment. "My grandmother raised me after my parents died. She always said family takes care of family." Sarah looked at him with surprise. Marcel was including her in his definition of family after knowing her for less than 6 hours. The concept felt foreign, but strangely comforting. "Why are you really helping me?" Marcel watched the tunnel walls flash past their train window. His reflection stared back with an expression Sarah had not seen before. Serious determination instead of casual charm. "Because someone should. Because you trusted me when you didn't have to. Because maybe this is more important than stealing wallets." They emerged from the metro station into an area of converted warehouses and small manufacturing facilities. The neighborhood felt empty compared to central Paris. Fewer people meant fewer witnesses, but also fewer places to hide. Amelie guided them through side streets using real-time surveillance data. Victor's security team had posted guards at regular intervals around the warehouse perimeter. Professional spacing and communication protocols confirmed military training. Sarah and Marcel took position behind a delivery truck with clear sight lines to the warehouse entrance. Thermal imaging from Amelie showed Victor meeting with two unidentified individuals inside the main building. Package Prometheus is in there. It has to be. Marcel adjusted his position to get better visual coverage of the guards. His pickpocket experience had taught him patience and observation skills that translated well to surveillance work. Sarah's phone buzzed with an encrypted message that made her blood freeze. Commander Phillips had sent updated intelligence about Victor's background. The arms dealer was actually an undercover Interpol agent investigating weapons trafficking networks. The implications hit her like a physical blow. If Victor was legitimate law enforcement, then someone else was selling the nuclear device. Someone with access to military intelligence and her mission parameters. Her hands shook as she forwarded the message to Marcel's phone. 3 months of intelligence had been deliberately falsified. Her mission was not rescue, but assassination of a fellow agent. Marcel read the message twice before the full meaning registered. Sarah's own command structure had sent her to eliminate someone investigating the real criminals. Who else knew about your mission? Sarah's mind raced through the possibilities. Phillips had briefed her personally. He had access to all intelligence reports and operational details. He knew her location and timeline every step of the way. The warehouse door opened, and Victor emerged with his security team. They moved quickly toward waiting vehicles, as if preparing to evacuate the location immediately. Sarah realized Victor was not meeting buyers. He was running from them. Someone had warned him that an American operative was hunting him through Paris. Her encrypted phone rang again. Phillips appeared on screen with an expression she had never seen before. Cold calculation instead of professional concern. Smith, I have new orders. Eliminate Victor Kozlov immediately. He's compromised the entire operation. The pieces fell into place with terrifying clarity. Phillips was the real arms dealer. Victor was the threat he needed eliminated. Sarah had been sent to Paris as an unwitting assassin. Sarah ended the call without responding to Phillips. Her hands trembled as the full scope of the betrayal became clear. Her own handler had orchestrated everything from the beginning. Marcel watched her face change as the implications sank in. The confident operative had been replaced by someone who looked lost and betrayed. What do we do now? Sarah's training had not prepared her for this scenario. Every protocol assumed command structure integrity. When that failed, field operatives were on their own with no backup or support. Victor's convoy pulled away from the warehouse as evening shadows lengthened across the industrial district. Amelie tracked their movement through traffic cameras while Sarah tried to process her new reality. Her encrypted phone buzzed with another message from Phillips. A Navy extraction team was en route to Paris with orders to bring her home immediately. The subtext was clear. She had become a liability that needed elimination. We need to find Victor before Phillips does. Marcel forwarded coordinates from Amelie as Victor's convoy headed toward central Paris. The Interpol agent was driving straight into the most heavily monitored part of the city. Either he was very confident or very desperate. They commandeered Marcel's motorcycle from a nearby parking garage. Sarah had not ridden in years, but muscle memory returned as they weaved through evening traffic. Marcel's arms around her waist felt strange, but reassuring. Amelie's voice crackled through Marcel's earpiece with updates every few minutes. Victor had stopped at a secure facility near the Louvre. Government vehicles were converging on the location from multiple directions. Sarah realized Victor was not running anymore. He was making his final stand at a location that would force Phillips to act in the open. The Louvre represented everything Phillips claimed to protect. They parked 3 blocks away and approached on foot, through crowds of evening tourists. The area buzzed with normal activity that masked the developing crisis. Families with children walked past without knowing they were entering a potential war zone. Sarah's phone showed 17 missed calls from Phillips. His messages had evolved from orders to threats to promises of court-martial. The progression revealed his increasing desperation as his operation unraveled. Victor emerged from the government facility with a metal briefcase handcuffed to his wrist. Package Prometheus had been hidden in plain sight within French intelligence headquarters. Phillips could never retrieve it without exposing his entire network. Marcel spotted the Navy extraction team before Sarah did. 4 operatives in civilian clothes were positioning themselves around the plaza perimeter. Their movements suggested they had orders to eliminate all witnesses. "Your friends are here." Sarah recognized the team leader from previous missions. Captain Morrison had served under Phillips for 8 years and followed orders without question. He would kill Victor, Marcel, and herself if commanded to do so. Amelie's voice came through Marcel's earpiece with urgent coordinates. Phillips had arrived at Charles de Gaulle Airport with a private security team. He was personally coming to clean up the situation. Sarah felt the weight of her service weapon, but knew she could not use it against American personnel. Her oath of service still meant something, even if Phillips had betrayed everything she believed in. "I need you to get that briefcase away from Victor." Marcel stared at her in disbelief. She was asking a pickpocket to steal a nuclear weapon from an Interpol agent while Navy SEALs watched from the shadows. "That's not exactly a wallet." Sarah pointed to the handcuff chain connecting Victor to Package Prometheus. Marcel's skills were uniquely suited for removing restraints without the subject's knowledge. His grandmother had taught him to escape from police handcuffs before he learned to tie his shoes. They moved through the crowd as Victor walked toward the Louvre's main entrance. The museum was hosting an international peace exhibition that evening. Hundreds of diplomats and dignitaries were arriving for the opening ceremony. Phillips had chosen his timing perfectly. Any violence would occur in front of global media with maximum political impact. He could eliminate Victor and blame the incident on international terrorism. Marcel worked his way closer to Victor, while Sarah tracked the Navy team's positions. Captain Morrison was speaking into a radio device while his operatives closed their perimeter. Victor suddenly turned and looked directly at Sarah across the crowded plaza. Their eyes met for several seconds before he nodded slightly. The Interpol agent knew exactly who she was and what she represented. He walked toward her instead of entering the museum. His movement forced Morrison's team to adjust their positions while confused tourists flowed around them. "Commander Smith, I believe we need to talk." Victor's accent was lighter than the intelligence files had suggested. His entire persona had been constructed to support his undercover role. The real man was younger and less threatening than his criminal identity. Sarah felt Marcel's presence beside her as Victor approached with Package Prometheus secured to his wrist. The 3 of them represented the only people in Paris who knew the complete truth about Phillips' operation. "Give me the device. I can get it somewhere safe." Victor smiled grimly while scanning the crowd for Morrison's operatives. His training was different from Sarah's, but equally thorough. Interpol agents learned to expect betrayal from all sides. Commander Phillips has been selling American military secrets for 18 months. This device was stolen to order for a buyer in Eastern Europe. I have been tracking the network since the beginning. Marcel's phone buzzed with an emergency message from Amelie. Phillips had landed and was en route to the Louvre with his security team. The situation would turn violent within minutes. Morrison's team began moving through the crowd toward their position. Sarah realized they were out of time and options. Phillips would arrive to find everyone eliminated and Package Prometheus recovered by loyal American forces. Victor removed a key from his jacket pocket and unlocked the handcuff securing him to the briefcase. He placed package Prometheus on the ground between himself and Sarah. "Choose carefully, Commander. Your country's honor depends on your next decision." Sarah looked at the device that had started everything, then at Marcel, who had trusted her despite understanding nothing about her world, then at Morrison's approaching team, who believed they were serving justice. Her phone rang one final time. Phillips appeared on screen with the Louvre visible in the background behind him. His expression showed no trace of the mentor who had guided her career. "Smith, step away from the terrorist and secure the package. That is a direct order from your commanding officer." Sarah looked at Victor, then at Marcel, then at the briefcase containing enough destructive power to level half of Paris. Her decision would determine not just their survival, but whether thousands of innocent people lived or died. She reached for her service weapon and made her choice.